My name is Bob Byrnes. I'd like to welcome you up, everyone here, and Mayor of the City of Marshall. So we have a nice little dedication program that we'll get to in just a minute, but let me say a few comments first. I know some of you are not from Marshall, some of you are from the Sioux Falls area, perhaps other places. So let me give you, first off, a warm welcome to this community and to the Red Baron Arena and Expo Center. Thankfully, that's not my phone. So this Marshall, of course, is a small community, but in Southwest Minnesota, we're a very large community because we are the largest community in Southwest Minnesota. We are the proud home to a number of businesses, including the Schwan Food Company, Avera, Marshall, as well as many other great employers within the community. And we're a community that is almost double in size every day because this is a community where people come to for education and for healthcare and for employment. So we are a regional community, and that's why this regional center makes a lot of sense. And of course, this center was supported by a number of things, including a local option sales tax, investment from the state of Minnesota, and a number of sponsors, the largest of which was Avera. And without all of those sources, including the significant sponsors, this center would not be here. So we're very proud of this, and of course this is really the first step in this development. There'll be other private development that will be happening in the area, perhaps a hotel or two that will be done privately, and a restaurant, and the fully developed. But as we were involved in the planning, and many of you in this room were involved in the planning, we knew that this is more than a sports center. It's an expo center, it's a regional facility, but it also needed to incorporate art. And that's why this sculpture, that the dedication is very, very special here. So I'll let others who know more about that talk about the sculpture and really the planning that went into it and the meaning and the significance of that. But know that it was an integral part of the planning of that. So that art piece was chaired by Jim Swartz, who is a retired professor at Southwest Minnesota State University, who really took this on and gave it lots of his personal attention and really involved others in how this should be planned, what the vision should be, how the community should make some decisions on what choices are. So I'd like to introduce Jim, and Jim, you have some comments that you'll make about the sculpture piece, okay?
Okay, we'll do that. Take off my down coat since it's
But you're inside.
inside, yeah, for this part. Yeah. Well, I'd like to recognize a few organizations and a few people connected to the sculpture and talk a little bit about it and maybe give you some insight into some things about it that you might not know yet or haven't learned from reading the nice display boards behind me, which you can do at some point. The objective was to enter into a community process to select a final artist to be able to design a sculpture to go on this site out in front of the Red Baron. The committee was called the Spirit of the Community, and that was one aspect that was in the documentation that went out to prospective artists. We had local partnerships with MAFAC, the local arts organization, and the city of Marshall. Through MAFAC, Becky Weifels, who's here today, and Karen Yant, the MAFAC secretary, and the facilities enabled us to hold meetings, give presentations, bring the artists in, display design boards for the community to react to the proposals. We had community services, first with Harry. I think Harry's here today too. Great arts supporter of the area and activities. Mary Tate, who's here today. I saw Mary, really helped a lot on the nuts and bolts to get things done. We had Preston Stensrud's here. I know Preston really keeps up Mrs. Whitney, which was another project that Harry and I and MAFAC had worked on. And by the way, Princeton, when it was the beginning of January and snowstorm and super below zero cold weather, the steel rolled in for the sculpture on a big flatbed truck, and Preston was there, and my wife called me. She fell down the steps and sprained her ankle. So Preston took over for me to help get the steel on the ground and get it ready, so I always appreciate that. Well, we have the City of Marshall for helping make the sculpture possible. We had a couple of variations that I'll talk about in a second that they had to work through, but Glenn Olson and his direction and his staff and the city council, all the city officials that helped shepherd the project through. As I've often been quoted, things seem to take longer than they take, and it took a little bit longer because of a couple of things that happened along the way. We got a SMOC legacy planning grant. The Mrs. Whitney statue had a legacy planning aspect. Unfortunately, this project couldn't have a full-blown legacy component because we didn't have the artists selected. We got a planning grant to be able to look at artists and get a recommendation for artists to come in. We had to pick one, and because of timelines and regulations, we weren't able to go after the big one. But they really helped immensely, enabling us to work with Forecast for the Arts in St. Paul, which is quite a powerhouse. We're just so lucky to have them in Minnesota. They do stuff all across the country and internationally as well. If you haven't heard about them, look them up. They helped us, advise us, and provide an example for an IRFQ, a request for qualifications from artists. They recommended names of artists that had done projects of this scope before. They helped formulate an artist agreement or the contract, which often gets pretty tricky. And they offered advice to us on the whole process because they have so much experience. We have then, of course, our committee, the Spirit of the Community Sculpture Committee. It's a mix of arts members, teachers, MAFAC officials, community service people, city officials, and community members. Our task was to select the final artists from 12 recommended Minnesota artists, get down to 3 finalists, and pick a final artist to do a proposal for the project. We had 2 Plaza configurations. This one that you see now, this we call number 1, and then there was number 2, which was the expanded Plaza and Hotel and Convention Center that was spiritedly worked on, and Randy Walker, the artist, was involved in proposals for that as well that the committee had to deal with. And because of funding, then we went back to the present site. But there was a lot of additional and exciting work that went into that aspect. We had a lot of public reaction to the project. Fortunately, public reaction to the 3 proposals by the finalists and the committee reaction was all the same, and it tended to be unanimous. And we had sculpture and design development meetings with the artists too. So we had tons of meetings, as members that are here today can attest to. I'd like to read the names of the participants on that committee, see if you might know some of them. Abby Amon, John DeKramer, Austin DeMuth. Well, Austin said something during the proceedings that I thought was interesting. He says, I'm going to bring my kids out here for hockey, and I think he's even hockey coaching, isn't he, Kevin? Doing some coaching. And he said, I'm going to tell them I helped get this sculpture here. So that was really cool. Tim Garrity, art teacher in the area, Mike Meyer, electrician, who was in the process early on and then had to go wire the universe somewhere. Pam Neat, Kevin Schroeder, who's with Avera, as is Abby. Matt Suby, my next door neighbor. Me, Kathy Lee from the city, and Scott Vandermillen in community service. Harry Weilige was on the committee way early on, and then also after he retired, he participated. We have the Arts Center representation from MAFAC. Ben mentioned Becky Weifels, really important person in the arts community. And of course, we have the artist, Randy Walker. He, like me, was a former architecture person, student. And so we got along really well. I found it quite interesting. our design sensibilities. I think maybe 30 years his senior, so there's a little age and electronic knowledge difference there, but it's still, I could really understand where he was coming from. He really produced a wonderful creative sculpture in the site that you can see. He integrated concepts and design. Some were very symbolic, understandable, and discoverable. In other words, it's very direct, and if you take a little bit of time, you'll increase the wow factor. There's aspects of fun in the project, the hockey sticks that represent the blades of grass and the seeds on top. The resulting sculpture is really quite old school. It's not a computer-controlled electronic gizmo if you notice, the sides of the poles are painted different colors, and as a person walks through it or drives past it, drives around it, moves in various site locations, it changes color. And of course, I watch it all the time, going past it in the morning, at night, come out here at night, check on it, and it really changes immensely throughout the day. I described one time, I think to Randy in a meeting, that it reminded me of a 3M Post-it note. That's something we're all familiar with. It's like a thing that you could say, well, I could have invented that. I could have thought of that. Anybody could think of that. And yet it's so much of our culture, and we use it every day. And I think Randy's sculpture is much like that. From a sculptor standpoint and also a teacher standpoint, it seems so direct and so simple and so obvious, that I could have thought of it too, but I didn't. Randy's the one that thought of it and did it. Randy titled the sculpture Prairie Roots. It seems very appropriate. I like to observe it day and night, as I mentioned, and I think maybe from an interesting Avera standpoint, with a spiritual aspect, sometimes I'll come out at night and just sit there, and I find it very much like a church. Very meditative place to be. And then, of course, there's Blad Home Construction. And I think Greg was gone on vacation today, is what I heard. The construction process and the quality of the work done, I thought his workers really enjoyed working on something that wasn't typical, and everything about it was really unusual. They had creative approaches to solving problems, which I really enjoyed seeing, how they fabricate something to get the job done. I enjoyed watching them work, and I sent pictures almost on a daily basis to Randy up in Minneapolis. So I was kind of a surrogate Randy on site, not checking to be nosy as much as just excited about the whole project. And with the technology of the iPhone and the cameras, I could ship him pictures pretty easily. I even enjoyed helping install the poles a little bit after January 1st in below zero weather and a snowstorm, and took 2 days, and we finally got them in, and that was pretty exciting as well. Well, Avera, I saved the best for last, I guess. Their contributions made the Plaza and the sculpture possible, and it's really nice that it's such of a high quality, really, really nicely done. And I've known a little bit about the level of the contributions and more towards the end of the project. Early on, I always ask Harry, where is the money coming from for this? Who's helping us? Who are we working for? How are we doing this? And Harry would be a bit mysterious, I think, because of the aspect of donation. We have a spirited community project or partner in Avera who purposely integrates fine art on campuses in Marshall, which you can see, and also in Sioux Falls. I visit Sioux Falls a few times a year with my wife for an allergy and arthritis clinic, and always go over and look at the Dale Lamphere sculpture and the art on the Avera campuses, and really like that. And had a knee worked on and other things, but really enjoyed the facilities down there. Well, you've got local care pretty much right in my neighborhood, don't live too far away from the hospital. We've got Marshall and Sioux Falls, right? Then something happens. Well, a couple weeks ago, my wife got jumped on by sinus infection, a bad back, and some antibiotics and taking too much ibuprofen. This can be edited out if you want it. But anyway, she ended up in the emergency room at the hospital, and then in a hospital room, then in ICU, CCU, and got out about a week ago. It was a really low sodium count. And while I was semi-living there, I got to meet really great doctors, really nice nurses and support staff. It was a semi-traumatic but quite interesting experience to see the facility that I joked with a retired physician friend of mine is the facility that I always drove past and looked at and thought, wow, things are developing there. That's a nice facility. But of course, I hadn't been there since our kids were born in the old hospital about 35 years ago. And he said, that's going to change. You know, he was implying that I'll probably be there too. But anyway, it was a really good experience. It's nice to have an appreciation for part of the community and its spirit, the thing that Randy's talking about with the sculpture. I feel lucky to have Avera, not only to do the sculpture in the plaza, but to be in the community and be tied in with Sioux Falls. And I think, personally, I'll now think of the Prairie Root sculpture and Avera in the plaza in a much more connected way because of this the last couple of weeks. So it's a wonderful sculpture. Randy did really a super job on it. It was immensely fun working with him as chair of the committee. As chair of the committee, and I think all the community members, I could speak for them too, that they enjoyed him as well. Really sharp guy. He's done stuff all over the country, working nationally. Did some really huge projects. This was a pretty small one in comparison to the things he works on. But he told me the other day that it was one of his favorites. So he's very, very pleased at the outcome. I don't know if you have any questions I could answer about the sculpture or.
Well, we can take questions
Okay, all
afterwards.
right. Okay, very good. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I'm sure there's a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah. Let's see, that's your book, I
Yeah,
guess.
don't leave me my speech there or I won't get it right.
Okay, well, I'll trade you.
Yeah. I don't think I can top yours. That was awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jim, for your remarks and description of the art itself and the meaning, I think. Abby and Kevin had kept me informed and our team with Avera, but certainly not to the degree that I just learned from you. So there's a lot of heart that went into that work too. So I'll offer just a few remarks and then we'll get to the dedication with LuAnn. First, just thank you so much to the Marshall Convention and Visitors Bureau for gathering with us today. Thanks, Lauren, for being our hostess today to dedicate the Avera Plaza, and thanks to everyone for attending. As Jim talked about the value of sponsorship, it's just our opportunity to express how proud we are at Avera to sponsor this plaza and the walking trails throughout the property. Thanks to the funds that were earmarked when the local hospital joined the Avera Health System a number of years ago. It's been exciting to watch the development of the Prairie Root sculpture, and we owe much credit to the artist Randy Walker, as Jim identified, for his fantastic design and his artistic vision, certainly. I have had the pleasure I bike ride, I don't run, and this is on my route. So I've had the opportunity to watch that grow and develop as well, and it's an awesome addition to the arena here. Avera is known, as you have indicated, Jim, and I'm glad to hear of the exceptional experience that you and your wife had. We're known for our care and concern for the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. And in our own facilities and in our communities as a whole, we do recognize the importance of the arts, and thank you for your compliments, Jim, on that. And arts as a means of deeper connection between one another, and as a means of understanding ourselves, our heritage, and our culture. We're also very supportive of thriving community life and wellness and positive activities for individuals and families, as well as economic growth and development. So for all of those reasons and many more, we're very pleased and proud to be a sponsor of this arena and expo center. Right here in Marshall, we do have, as Bob, you indicated, fantastic resources here in the Marsh, including the state-of-art arena and even the best ice rink in Minnesota. As LuAnn will attest, Avera is here a lot for meetings, and it's fun, especially now as hockey season starts and we start to experience some of the teams coming in from around the state, and adults, parents, fans, grandparents just marvel at the facility we have in Marshall and wonder, how did we get so lucky? So Avera is very honored to be part of the collaborations and partnerships that came together to make this vision a reality. Avera Plaza and the distinctive Prairie Roots sculpture is a beacon for our community and a symbol of our home here in the upper Midwest. I just love how the 210 colorful steel poles, you probably counted each one of them, Jim. How those steel poles represent the prairie grasses native to our region, and how the floor of the gathering area is patterned after the Redwood River. Looking back to 2009, Avera Marshall's partnership with the City of Marshall impacted our region by expanding and enhancing local healthcare services. This project was another significant way we could work together with the city to make a meaningful impact by supporting and encouraging wellness in the community. So congratulations to everyone for a successful project that impacts our entire region for the better. As Avera, investing in this project is one more way we are living out our mission to make a positive impact in the lives and health of persons and communities. So thank you, Bob, and all of the representatives that are here today for the opportunity to be part of this important project. So at this point, I'll turn to LuAnn Trutwin, the Vice President of Mission with the Avera Marshall region.
So good afternoon. Let's see, I'll move this down a little bit. I'm not quite as tall as Mary here. So welcome to the dedication of the Avera Plaza, and thank you for being here. As Mary said, my name is LuAnn Trutwin. I'm the VP of Mission here at Avera, and it is really my privilege to have so many members of the community. I don't know many of you yet, but I'll get to know you in time. It's an honor and pleasure to be here and to have this opportunity to be a part of the community and to be a part of the Avera Plaza dedication. Many of you know the collaboration, as Mary and Jim both spoke about, and the community involvement processes that went into the project. And a project sounds like it really had some very extensive work in the installation in order to have it be accomplished along with all the people working together in collaboration. This is a beautiful sculpture, guys. I'm just speechless when I see it, and I think, at first I thought the wind is really, oh my goodness, I can't go and do this blessing that I planned, But Jim, you spoke to me a little bit about how the sculpture moves with the wind, and this is exactly what the Spirit did. It's showing us. Right behind me, if you look at it, you can see the sculpture move a little bit with the wind. This was intended for it to be the way it is today. So I just draw your attention to that as I give this prayer and blessing for Avera Plaza and for our sculpture. And with that, we gather this afternoon under the sky with the sun and the wind, connecting with the earth, which nourishes and supports us to dedicate Avera Plaza. We dedicate the space to all those in the future. We dedicate it also to the good of the earth, from which the trees come, to which we all return. We dedicate it for the creativity. We ask blessings on Avera Plaza, wishing all the good wishes we can for its future, praying that delight and joy will always surround and fulfill it. We give thanks for the all-time talent and treasure that has gone into its creation. We give thanks for the many whose expertise in drawing plans and the moving of the earth. May we continue to nurture one another, to work for justice, to care for the earth. May we breathe with the hope, faith, and love of the ages. May it be like the arms that reach outward to embrace our community and our beautiful world, extending our ministry to all with healing, justice, service, and love. May the same spirit that drew us all into being and into this community draw forth from each one of us. We give thanks for the generous people who made this possible, and so in the spirit of life and love, we bless all of Avera Plaza and all of you that are gathered here today. God grant the work that we do serve to better us and to contribute to the spread of the kingdom of Christ, who lives and reigns with you, one God forever. Let us go forth in joy, in peace, and in love. Blessings to you all. Amen.
Thank you, LuAnn.
You're welcome.
I think that ends our formal program for this afternoon, but we do have fellowship certainly available here. And before we go, if there's others that wanted to make any comments, we're happy to, or if you have questions at all. Jim would be the one with the answers, though.
Maybe.
Anything? Others that want to share? Lauren, you look like you were coming up, so.
I just wanted to give a quick thanks. So, on behalf of the CBB and kind of representing the city a little bit, we just want to thank Avera for giving us this beautiful, beautiful plaza that we get to enjoy, and everybody who visits Marshall gets to enjoy. And then the Arts Committee as well. Without it, obviously none of this would have been possible. So thank you. And please feel free to grab refreshments before you leave. We have a small table available. So thanks for joining us.